All right, Dolphin fans, how are we doing? So, my apologies on the late video for this one, but with everything going on over on the hockey channel, this was as quick as I could get to this. So, y'all already know Dolphins traded Ramsey and Smith to the Steelers for Minka Fitzpatrick. And then today, I'm going to read you a quote that perfectly encapsulates the Miami Dolphins. So the whole Ramsey Smith for Minka. Okay, so we traded a guy that didn't want to be here and a guy that would have stayed if we were going to pay him to a guy that didn't want to be here, so we moved him a few years ago. Now I know that was with Flores and everything, but still, not much culture change going on there. Now, in terms of Darren Waller, who was the man that we just traded, we like a swap of a sixth and a seventh, some convoluted, basically giving up nothing to the Giants for a dude that's been retired. And I'm going to read you from this Sports Illustrated article. This was the quote. This is the quote from Darren Waller when he retired. Let's see. He speaking to host Michael Schwartz on the Side You Don't See podcast in June, Waller provided more detail about what went into his decision to retire from the NFL. That decision apparently became clear to Waller during the Jets' 14-9 loss to Buffalo on October 15, 2023. His quote was, "It was the first quarter of the game. We were running like this counter lead running play, and I'm kind of like heading through the hole like I'm a fullback. The play is working, but I sit down on the sideline after a drive where we ran it 3 times, and I'm like, what the F am I doing with my life? I'm out here playing fullback, and I don't even want to do this shit anymore." What have we heard about a culture change? How does Chris Grier still have a job? So basically, our replacement for Jonnu Smith, which I understand all of the arguments of people saying, well, he only had the one really good year, blah, 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 blah. Whatever, man. We make that argument with every damn good player that we get rid of. But we replace him with a dude that was retired basically because he had a crappy attitude about being asked to do what many times is part of the tight end's job, which is to be a lead blocker on a play that he admits was working. So, great. That's fantastic. It perfectly summarizes the Dolphins and why they're just never going to be anything with Grier at the helm. It really honestly starts to feel like a Saturday Night Live skit. Now, in terms of what's going to be on the field, Minka does help the safety room. No questions asked. I know he's not getting any younger. Some people think he's not what he used to be. I think with these guys, a lot of it comes down to attitude and conditioning. The cornerback room, however, is less than desirable. It's so bad. I got a voicemail from the Dolphins. They'd like me to try out despite my lack of height and age. So the assumption is Asante Samuel, maybe Rasul Douglas, some kind of old-time scrub veteran guy that can come in and at least play moderately okay, decent-ish. What's Cam Smith going to do? Don't know. Kader Kohu? Don't know. Storm Duck? I mean, certainly it's possible that one of those guys could at least elevate themselves to the level of very good starter. Is it possible? We got a lot of guys. That's what we got. We don't have much proven, that's for sure. And so if you get Samuel, if you get Douglas, I'd probably prefer Samuel if he's healthy. Douglas, again, these are mad guys. They're available for a reason. Now, in terms of what Waller's going to bring to the tight end position, I don't know. What's he willing to do? Like in McDaniel's offense, there's a lot of creativity. He might be asked to go into motion. Is he going to be okay with that? Because that's kind of almost more like a wide receiver and not a tight end. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's his attitude going to be? We traded for a guy that was retired because he had a shitty attitude. That's perfectly Chris Grier. There's no bucket of moves that perfectly encapsulates what Greer is than taking a guy that didn't want to be here and a guy that wanted to be here, trading them for a guy that already left because he didn't want to be here, and replacing the guy that wanted to be here with a guy that was retired because he didn't want to be where he was. You can't make this stuff up. You absolutely can't. So what's that going to all pan out to be on the field? I like Jonnu Smith. It's a shame. I hate to see him go. Some people say nobody saw that coming. I would like to raise my hand and say I drafted him in my fantasy team because I did see that coming. I thought he was going to have a good year, and he did. It's a shame. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, he only had that year because Waddle and Hill. And I guess to some extent that's possible. But hey, dumbasses, that's how you build a team. It's how you build a team. Complementary pieces. You see what I'm saying? Not all the pressure has to be on Waddle and Hill if you got a good pass catching tight end. That's not a knock on a guy that he was able to take advantage of the advantage that he had if the other teams were sending two guys to cover either one of Waddle or Hill. That's not a knock on a guy. That means he fits your system. That means you should maybe think about paying him, because if one year he was good, the next year that could have been built upon. He could have improved. And instead of that, we do what we consistently do, which is play patty cakes with these guys and broom them out the door. Now, I know Tyreek was supposedly going to talk to Jalen Ramsey about possibly staying. You guys didn't really believe that was going to happen, did you? I mean, Tyreek can barely decide if he wants to stay or go on a week-to-week basis. So why should he be able to convince Ramsey? And what's he going to convince him of? I played the video a couple of days ago on the live stream where Tyreek is talking big on the show there with Johnny Manziel, and this team still seems to think that the big hurdle to get over is win a playoff game. I mean, the bar has been set low. Now, in that interview, to be fair, Hill did talk about them, beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, but that was completely tongue-in-cheek. I don't think anybody believes that. I think if you ask the Dolphin players what the goal for the season was, it would be to have a winning record the second half of the year and win a playoff game, which I do understand you have to start somewhere. I do understand. But to be honest with you, that would be the worst possible result for the Dolphins, because if they had a good record the second half of the season and made the playoffs and actually won a game as a wild card, they're not winning the division, it would give Ross some false sense of improvement, and then we'd be stuck with Greer. Would probably get an extension, right? We'd be stuck with Greer for who knows how much longer. McDaniel, I'm not in a rush to fire him, but when Greer goes, hopefully the new guy comes in and just brooms the whole culture, because they can talk all they want about a culture change, but when you see the moves that this team is making, nothing has changed. It doesn't look like anything's going to change. And hopefully, at least our new tight end won't have a bad attitude if we ask him to block. Now, is it possible Miami can still go out and get maybe Kyle Pitts, Andrews from Baltimore? Are we going to make that kind of a deal? It's possible, but I don't think – look, the tight end position is barely an offensive position in McDaniel's system, right? Only last year did he decide to really start using the tight end a little bit as a weapon. I don't think the Dolphins value the tight end any more than they value the offensive line position, which is to mean if you're retired and or old, broken down, and hurt and will play for peanuts, you're on the team. Thanks, guys.